Hello.
Hey Blaine, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. We want to thank you for coming on and doing this with us. We're really excited to get to do this with you.
There we go. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. Excited to get to
Yeah, I'm
do
just.
one with you.
Yep. Yeah. No, I'm super excited. Sorry, it took me a little bit. I'm had to get reacclimated to Zoom. I haven't used it since COVID on school. So, but yeah, no. How's it going?
Good. How's it been going for you? We know you've been busy lately, racing and then traveling with the big machine team.
Yeah, yeah. So man, it's a lot of work. It's a full lifestyle, but it's I'm super grateful I get to do it, and I wouldn't rather do anything else.
So we'll start with it. What was your starting race and where did you really start at your starting point?
Yeah, so I was actually born into motorsports. My dad moved to North Carolina when he was 18, I believe, from Maine, and he moved to North Carolina and went to work straight at Hendrick Motorsports on the 24 car with Ray Evernham and Jeff
Oh
Gordon.
wow.
He was there at what was that 1991? I think he got there, and he was there for a good long time. He was one of the original Rainbow Warriors, and he won a lot of championships with Jeff, and won a lot of races with him, and got a lot of experience with Ray. And Ray's actually my godfather.
Oh, how about
He's
that?
Yeah, he's super cool.
Oh yeah.
He helps me a lot and gives me a lot of good advice. But then on my mom's side, she oh, speaking of my mom, she's actually calling me. Uh, but so yeah, on my mom's side, her dad raced Grand National with some guys like Richard Petty.
Oh yeah.
Give me one second. Let me tell her. Uh, but yeah, he was a Grand National driver, and he did really well at select races. He didn't run the full schedule, but I never got to meet him, unfortunately, but he was a great racer. And so when I was about, let's see, seven or eight, I think my dad put me in a go kart, and I ran a couple practice sessions, but it wasn't really what I wanted to do. And him and my mom never pushed that on me, and I was super grateful for that because at the time that wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to go play basketball and baseball and just be a kid like anybody else and do what my friends wanted to do really. And so I tried out a bunch of different sports and like I said, basketball and baseball, and that's what I really pushed to do. And I wanted to try to play those in college up until I turned 15, I believe, 15 or 16. And so my start in racing was actually really late compared to what kids are doing now.
Right.
Uh, so yeah, I turned that age, and I went to my dad and was like, "Hey, let's what do you say about going racing again? Like, let's try that out." And so we ran few dirt go kart races at Millbridge Speedway
Okay.
in Mooresville, North Carolina, and that was super fun. And it still just was kind of something to do. And then I went and tried asphalt racing, and and that was really what I loved. And but that was I had a lot of fun doing that. I met a lot of friends. I've raced against really good drivers. Some now that which are in the Xfinity series, um, and I did that for a while, and did a couple national events, a lot of local races at GoPro Motorplex, which is
Oh
now
yeah.
Trackhouse Motorplex, which we are super blessed to have that track in basically my backyard. And
Right.
because it's such a high performance racetrack, and it's a lot of experienced drivers, and you never get to go to a track like that in some of the other parts of the countries, and you never know who's going to be out there.
That's the other thing,
Yep,
a lot of big name people go there to practice, and so you never really know
exactly.
who'll be there.
Yep, yep. So it's a really great opportunity to be able to go and race with them guys. I've raced against Will Power,
Oh
Joseph
wow.
Newgarden, um, Kyle Larson, Scott Speed, um, Daniel Suarez, Michael McDowell, Paul Menard. Now, there's a lot of big names that have won pretty major races that I've gotten to race against. And I'm super fortunate for that because them guys, they know a lot more than us, and so you just get behind them and just try to learn something when they're out there. And that's the beauty of having that access in your backyard, basically. Um, but yeah, that was my start into racing was through go-karts and through my dad and my mom, and they never pushed that on me. It happened naturally. um, I couldn't tell you what made me say, hey, let's go do this. I always had that thought in the back of my mind of racing for my dad. My dad, he's the current crew chief on the 48 Big Machine race car for the Xfinity Series, and I get to work with him every single day. I spend uh, a lot of hours with him
Oh,
and,
I
and pick his
imagine.
brain. I'm super grateful for the relationship him and I have, and um, but yeah, he's one of the best teachers.
You come from a great group of teachers there and work with some great ones. But for me, my racing started. I was a go karter too, and road courses is what I found the most natural to me. Ovals never really came to me like a road course. I think the road courses you just had to have a certain knack of precision to be able to tell, different angles and stuff. And so road coursing for me was something I felt more natural when I would get into a cart and drive in.
Yeah, no, I love road course racing. It's some of my favorite. Yeah, racing in the rain in a road course, that's a tall task
Oh
of
yeah.
the driver. It really shows how good a driver can be, and running in the rain is one of my favorite things. And um, but I my first step into a real race car was a Formula 4 car.
Oh
And because
really?
I was still trying to figure out, yep, I was still trying to figure out my footing and see where I wanted to end up. And I got the opportunity to run a Skip Barber
Okay.
car at VIR in Virginia, and that was super fun. And the downforce in those cars and the braking and the acceleration is unlike no other. And I tell people all the time, and because they ask, they're like, what is it like to drive something like that?" And I explain that split feeling of landing in an airplane when you touch down.
Touchdown.
That's what it feels like all the time, and especially under braking, because the the brake stops so much and it pushes you in the seat, and it's a really really cool feeling.
And one of those cars, the braking is so much different from the stock car. One of those, you're already really starting to turn before you even touch the brakes. A stock car, you're having to brake still on the straightaway coming into the turn.
Yeah, so exactly. So that was my next step into racing was I tested a late model a few times at Orange County, and that was a very big learning experience for myself because it's a super heavy race car, and it doesn't stop, it doesn't want to turn, it really doesn't want to go, and so it does the opposite of everything you want it to do. And that was a big learning experience for myself. And but yeah, I had a lot of practice before I raced. My dad he pushed that on me and made sure that I was ready and wasn't going to go out there and really mess up, right? And so my first race was at Orange County. It was just me and my mom. My dad was in Pocono actually, and he was sitting there on flow racing or and race monitor watching it, and he always told me is like wherever you qualify, wherever you practice, you're going to start in the back. It does, for as long as your late model career, you're going to start in the back. You're going to learn how to pass, and so that's what we did. My first late model race, I qualified fifth out of 20 car field, I think, and on in qualifying, that was my first time on sticker tires, and my crew chief, I asked him, I said, what's it gonna feel like because I always wanted to know what the expectation was before I went out on track, and my dad, he just don't worry about it, go out there and drive it. And my crew chief, who had worked with my dad before, he's like, well, you're gonna feel like Superman out there, like just go wheel it. So that's what I did, and I missed the pole by 2/100ths, I believe it was. That's how close the field was, and it was a wicked experience, and it's just me and my mom to do that, and but I think that night was a double header race, so it was two twin 50s, and so I was super fortunate to be able to race, get out, think about it, and then get back in and go do it again. So that was super beneficial of having a teammate there, to somebody to talk to it about. And but yeah, it was super cool to be able to finally get into a stock car, because that's what I've always been around.
In watching those late model races, it seems like starting up front is a real big advantage. I recently went to the Cars Tour event they had at Cordele, and so many of those drivers were really saying that track was so tight. They could really compare it to Florence Speedway in South Carolina, and that it's just those cars are just real tight. You just can't really loosen them up a whole lot, and clean air is a big advantage to those cars compared to running in traffic.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why my dad wanted me to start in the back, because if you start up front, then you really just don't learn how to race. You're racing by yourself. And at a track like Orange County and Cordell and Florence, those places are one lane grooves, and you really have to set up your pass and time it perfectly, and get that run off the corner to be able to pass the guy. And so that was a big learning for me, was learning how to pass in a full body stock car.
Like you were saying, your dad has been a big part of your career. How much has he been able to help you when he's not at the Xfinity races? When say you're maybe into ARCA or the late model, what's some things that he's been able to do that's really helped, other than maybe looking at the data and maybe from the spotter stand or something?
Yeah, so exactly. Um, so a lot of people say to me, "Man, that must really suck, having to work with your dad. You guys must butt heads a lot." And really, he knows me more than anybody else, and I've gotten to the point of where, okay, what he says is going to be right, because he's worked with so many different drivers, and he's seen every single outcome of basically every event in a race, in a stock car race. And I have to respect that what he says is probably going to happen, and most likely it does. So I'm super grateful to pick his brain every single day. Him and I ride in the car together to work. We drive an hour both ways to the race shop, and I get to spend a lot of time with him to ask him questions. And sometimes they might be a little repetitive, and him just really this question again. But it's something that him and I get to do, and I'm super super grateful and fortunate to have him in my back pocket as a as a tool. And like you said, a spotter, he spotted for me at my first ARCA race, which was at Flat Rock Speedway, and that was super beneficial, because he told me, "Hey, this is what you need to do." And because that was I've only ran so I ran three late model races. That was all the experience that I've had in a full body stock car. and we went straight to an ARCA car. And so that's a pretty big jump these days. And so, he ran ARCA for quite some time with Michael McDowell and Scott Speed and a few other guys. And um, I was super super grateful to be able to have him and ask him questions and to know what to expect when I got on the racetrack and be able to perform.
Last 2 seasons we've seen you, like you said, compete at Flat Rock. You got to do the test at Daytona and recently at Rockingham. Three different tracks, but how do you see yourself as the development of your driving style from those three tracks from then to now?
Yeah, yeah. So like you said, they are completely different, right? And so we'll start at Daytona. So that was my very first step into a ARCA car, and so I ran for Andy Hillenberg and got down there and I went through the rookie meeting and was just super pumped to be there and be able to actually make laps at the world famous Daytona. And so I get out there and Andy he sits me in the car and he's like, "Listen, you're gonna go down the back straightaway and you're not gonna lift." And and so all the guys at the race shop, they were telling, "Oh, don't lift, do not lift. Like if you lift, like you're scared." And so I already had that in the back of my mind of if I lift, I'm just scared of the race car. And so going down the back straightaway and I put my left foot down and put it right over my right foot. And I was not lifting. and so and so you go down there and it is insane of how easy it is to drive around there in a single car run. Andy told me, "Look, this is one of the easiest tracks that you'll be able to drive around by yourself." And it was. I tell people all the time, it's like driving on the highway. You go down the back straightaway, you turn the wheel, and the corner has so much banking, it loads the car up and it turns the wheel for you. And that's hard to describe to some people that aren't big race fans, but I joke about it all the time. Is I tell people I didn't realize how fast I was going until I looked in the stands. And when you're standing on pit road, if you ever anybody that gets to go to Daytona, you look as far as you can to the left, as far as you can to the right, and there's grandstands, and they are super super long. And when you whiz by there off of four, I mean you are by the entire grandstands in a few seconds. And when I actually looked up and wasn't just pure white knuckling it, I got to see how fast I was going, and that was super cool. And running the top at Daytona is super super cool, right up against the fence, and that's a tall task running in the draft up there, and I respect them guys that drive up there, and then so let's jump to Flat Rock. That was another short track. That was something that I was familiar with. I've done that before, and I was super excited to go there. And it's a big circle, and so go out. We're practicing, and I can't keep it on the bottom. The car was a little too tight, and my dad saw that right away before, like he saw it lap one. So we pull in and tighten it back up, go back out, and we were pretty good. And practice, I think it was 50 minutes practice, and that was just me acclimating to the race car and getting used to something like that, because I've never been in something like that before, and because the ARCA cars and late models are just vastly different. Um, but yeah, qualifying was super fun. I qualified seventh, I believe. We ran around 7 to 6 all day and in the race, and which it was a great track to go to for my first race and to get my feet wet in the ARCA Menards series. And I love that track. It's coming up again here in a few weeks, and I plan to go back if everything goes right here in the next couple of days. That's going to be the next one. But yeah, getting out of the race car is I learned so much about racing at Flat Rock, and got to know the other drivers and see how they race, and pick up on things. And with the little experience that I had jumping into an ARCA car, and picking up on it, and trying to be competitive was uh, I was super grateful to be able to be out there with them guys. And but Rockingham, on the other note, was a very steep learning curve for me. uh, but I don't know if you got to go, or if you watched. It
I
was
watched it on the flow.
Yeah,
It was a
yeah,
great race.
it was a very great race. And we had two practice sessions, which I knew. So actually, let me back up a little bit. So I got to run the simulator at RCR Racing, because the our Xfinity team is partnered with them. And so I had a little bit of a prep work in mind and then I got to pick the other drivers' brains on what to expect, and how's it going to drive, and what's the corners going to be like. And Nick, he was super great about that. And he's a past ARC Menards champion, and
Yeah.
he knows those cars inside and out. And I used him a lot to figure out what I needed to do. I'm super blessed to be able to have that opportunity to pick these drivers' brains that I know. And but yeah, so Friday morning was our first practice, and so we were super good. We were our car was the best of fast track racing, and but the sensation of speed was the most I've ever felt at that racetrack. It was the biggest racetrack that I've ever actually raced at, minus Daytona, which I only made laps there. But going into the corner and coming out of the corner, you really get pushed in the seat and have to drive the race car. It's a big braking track, depend on where you're at in traffic or not. And but it's a super technical track, and there's a very thin line of error. So especially turn two and getting into one, you have to be on your marks. And that was a very steep learning curve for myself, because of the size and the speed. Um, but yeah, I believe it was a great weekend for us, and I learned a lot from the weekend. So about lap four or five, whatever, after the caution, very first
Oh yeah.
caution. Yep. So we took the green flag again, and on the back straightaway after the restart, I hit about a foot long piece of steel that shot through my nose and cut my left front tire.
Ooh.
And so, so, so I come over the radio, and I was like, "Hey, I just hit something huge. Like I saw it in the middle of the racetrack, and I didn't have time to move. I don't know how the guy in front of me didn't hit it, and but I ended up hitting it, and we had to pit and put a new left front tire on it, um, and then go back out, which that led us to being a few laps down. I can't recall. I think it was maybe 5 laps down. Brent Cruz, he was wicked fast all
Oh yeah.
weekend, and those cars were hooked up, and they really showed speed that weekend. But yeah, that weekend was super crazy, and I'm so grateful that I was able to be a part of it. And being the first race at Rockingham in 20 years, there was 60 plus thousand people there. That was the most people that I've raced in front of, and got to be in front of, which was a blessing to me. And being able to see the fans, and seeing the kids there get to see the race cars go, that was super cool to me. And I love to be able to show the little kids, um, what I love. It's something that I have a huge passion for, and blessed that I get to do that every day.
Now I know Xfinity and trucks back in, I guess it was January, February, got to do a couple day test. Did ARCA get to do a test there as well?
Yeah, so Jamie McMurray got to run a few laps there after our test session.
Mhm.
Um, and that I don't think it was open to the public. Um, I'm not entirely sure. I think he was the only one that did it. But that's all I know of.
Like you said, going from the test into the car was what was Nick was obviously able to teach you a lot, but from maybe your side, was there things you could just see that you were able to do differently that you were able to take into the race? Maybe way Nick was driving the car on different lines. Did were you able to kind of lean off of that and help you out some?
Yeah, so a little bit actually. So when we went there in was it January, I think, it was ridiculously cold, and it was damp, and the track had water on it, and it rained the previous day, and um, it was a completely different racetrack from the test to the actual race. I know for a fact that the Xfinity car my dad's in had a completely different setup from the test to the race because of the track conditions. But I got to pick his brain on the line of the race car, and some of his driving style at the certain racetrack, and he's a great driver. He is super fast, and he knows how to explain something like that very very well in the ARCA car, and because he knows what they drive like. And um, but yeah, I like I said, I'm super grateful to have him to pick his brain and to see what he thinks about everything.
And Blaine, here's another thing for you. Let's look at the future, maybe in next 10 years or so. Is the goal for you ultimately maybe to be at Big Machine eventually driving into 48 and having your dad as the crew chief? Would that be a long term goal for your career?
Yeah, absolutely. That's always been a dream of mine to be able to go over the radio and talk to my dad while I'm driving. And when I get the opportunity to have him on the pit box at my select ARCA races is a complete blessing, um, because it means a lot to me to be able to race for my father, because he's one of my biggest supporters, and I wouldn't be here without him. And but yeah, absolutely. I would love to drive for the Big Machine Spike Coolers 48 car. Currently, I can't because of the age limit on
Mm.
it, which it's because of the alcohol sponsorship. You have to be 21, and I'm currently 19, so that's a big factor in it. And but yeah, that's definitely a goal of mine. Maybe some select Xfinity starts next year. I'm
Absolutely.
definitely trying to try to get into a truck this year, at a few select races.
That kind of leads us into what we were going to end with here. Obviously, ran Rockingham this year, but what? And you mentioned possibly running Flat Rock. Are there any other races that we could possibly see you in the car or a car of any kind this year?
Yeah, definitely. So 100%, you'll see me in some more ARCA races this year, and I'm working on some truck races, trying to find some partners for that, and get that solidified into the works. And but yeah, it's coming along. It's a grind. It's a full job being a race car driver, and whether that's working out or working with your partners, and finding future partners, and getting leads on anything. But yeah, working in the sim obviously, and working on the race cars is a big one. I go to work every single day at Big Machine Racing and get to work on their race cars, and get to learn from them and the shop guys, and all the employees at Big Machine Racing have practically raised me in the past few years. Is what I like to say. I I went to online high school when after freshman year. I was in person freshman year, and I went to my parents and said, "Hey, this is not what I want to do. I want to go race. I want to travel with dad, and I want to learn from these guys, and I want to be a driver. This is what I want to do." And so we looked around, and we found Liberty University through actually William Byron's partnership with them. And their schooling has allowed me to travel and work with everybody at Big Machine Racing and get my schoolwork done. I graduated high school a year early with 36 college credits, and I'm currently going to graduate college 2 years early next week. So that means a lot to me. And without Liberty University, I wouldn't be in the place I am today. And so I go everywhere and tell people, hey, if you want to do this, you should look into online schooling to get your degree, to get an education. And I majored in business management, and I've learned so much on the road with these guys that have taught me more than I can imagine, and I'm super grateful for that.
Business is what I started in. I'm in college right now, and I think working in the racing world, having that business degree is so good to have, just because racing is a business, and just be able to know how to conduct business deals between not only teams but sponsors, and that's a big thing to have. And I'm looking to finish mine. I swapped and actually went into medical, but you can still work in both. And but a business is a great thing to have, I think, in racing.
Yeah. So other than racing, it's just a great all around deal. I've taken anywhere from finance classes to economics classes. I've taken a very broad scale of education classes, and that's gave me a great foundational point to move into business in other areas, whether that might lead me to owning a race team or managing a race team or being the driver. That has a lot of opportunities to be involved in.
And we'll end it with here as we head into Texas. What's your role on the team? We see you at
So
the race
I
every week.
Yep. So I am the tire specialist.
Okay.
I get to manage all the race tires that go in the car, and whether that's measuring them, putting the proper amount of air in them, making sure that they're all staggered and scaled right for Nick to perform at the highest level.
Well, Blaine, it's super great to talk with you and find out some more about your career. And we're definitely pulling for you this year. I'd love to see you in some more ARCA races and the trucks. We know you can do it in there. Rockingham was a good showing until the piece of metal, but we'd love to see you getting in some more and come on and talk with us some more about some more races you do.
Yep. No, I would love it. I appreciate your time, and
Yeah,
thanks for having me.
absolutely. Yeah, we appreciate it, Blaine. We thanks again.
Yep. Thank you. Have a good one.
You too. Thank you.